Hiya! So this is the hair bow we're going to be making in today's tutorial, and I've decided to go for an Easter theme as I've made quite a few Valentine's ones and Easter is not too far away. So these ribbons I will link in the description below. If I can't find the exact patterns, I will link very similar. So yeah, check out the description below for all of the products that I've used in this tutorial today. So I've got this gorgeous little bunny print with Easter eggs on it as well, and then I've got this chevron zigzag and spotty ribbon to match, and then I picked out a couple of pastels in plain ribbon, so a nice lilac and a baby blue, because I thought they were sort of nice Eastery springtime colours. And all of these ribbons are 2.5 centimetre or 1 inch wide ribbons. Again, everything that I use will be linked in the description below. This is one that I've already made. I thought I'd have a little play before I do the tutorial, and this is the one that I came up with. And as you can see, I've used the lilac, the bunny print and a spotty ribbon. And yeah, so I've used 3 different sort of patterns and a plain, 2 patterns and a plain. So yeah, you can really play about with this style bow and mix and match your ribbons. So we're going to be using this one again for this bow, but this time I'm going to be using the zigzag instead of the spots. And I'm going to use the baby blue this time, so we've got a different look on this one. For the main part of the bow, you will need 4 pieces of ribbon. As you can see, I've got 2 plain and 2 patterned. The 2 pieces of patterned ribbon are cut to 23 centimetres in length. I'll just show you that a little bit closer. So 23 centimetres in length or 9 inches. And again, these are 1 inch wide ribbons. And then the plain pieces, you will need 2 pieces cut to 20 centimetres in length or 7.9 inches. So 2 patterned at 23 centimetres and 2 plain at 20 centimetres. I've put up the inches on the screen as well, if you prefer to work in inches. So first of all, you need to heat seal the ends of the ribbon, and this will just get rid of any frays and also prevent any further fraying. So do that on the ends of all 4 pieces. I've already made half of the bow, so you can see what we're aiming for, and to save a bit of time, we do the exact same steps on both halves. So what you need to do is taking your pattern piece, we're going to fold it in half to find the centre. So I've folded it in half, and then I'm going to use a little bit of heat from my lighter, and that will just help to mark a crease in there, so we can use that as a guide for the centre. Do the same with the plain piece, so folding the plain piece of ribbon now in half to find the centre, and again using some heat from the lighter to mark a crease in there. So when you open these up, you can now see where the centre is. We're going to line our pattern piece on the top of the plain, so lining up those 2 central creases that we've just made, also making sure they're in line down the sides as well. And then using a pin, or you could use a fabric clip, we're going to just pin those in place in that middle. Next, we're going to bring these 2 ends together, but first of all, we're going to fold it in half lengthways to find the middle of the end of the ribbon. So I've folded it in half lengthways and give it a little squeeze. Do the same with the pattern piece also, so give it a little pinch. I'm not going to bother using a lighter this time, that should be enough. So I can see those 2 creases on there. And then we're going to bring those 2 raw ends together, so making sure they're in line across the raw edges at the top, and again making sure they're in line down the sides also. Grabbing another pin, I'm going to pop it in, going down lengthways this time, where I've made that crease, and that will hold those 2 ends together. And as you can see, you get this look, because obviously the pattern piece is slightly longer than the plain piece. Repeat those steps with the other end, so again finding the centre by folding them in half lengthways, and then bringing those 2 ends together, lining them up down the sides and the top, and then popping a pin in there through the end downwards lengthways. So this is what we've got now. And now we need to check our pattern placement, because obviously this is a patterned ribbon which requires to be the correct way up, like on this side. So that's that half done. So making sure my pattern is the correct way up. So this is going to be the bottom, so my pattern is facing the correct way up. So holding it now this correct way up, we're going to take this right side and bring it over to lay it over the back. So the pattern, the plain side is facing up towards us. So the right side, bringing it in and flipping it over to overlap this back piece. Do the same with the left side, so bringing this piece over the top to overlap the back. So I'm holding it this way up now, and I'm taking this right side and I'm overlapping the left, and we're going to line it up halfway. So we're halfway overlapping these two pieces, which is why we've got these pins in here, because these mark the halfway mark. So I've got the right side on the top overlapping the left side, lining up all of those raw edges, making sure they're also in line with this pin here. So this is obviously the middle, so we're going to line that pin up directly in the middle of where those two overlaps. You should end up with these 3 pins all evenly spaced. So these 2 pins with the one in the middle, like that. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And then I'm going to grab my needle and thread now. So I've got a needle here and I've threaded it with some strong thread and I've popped a knot in the end. And we're going to now stitch in our pinch. So first of all, just making sure they're still in line before I start sewing. I'm going to go in through the top, catching all of these corners for our first stitch. Again, I'm just making sure they're in line before I start stitching. So going in through this first corner, catching all of those layers through to the bottom. That's our first stitch, pulling it all the way through to the knot. And then our second stitch is going to come up through the bottom toward the top, sort of in between where this pin is and this first stitch, so in the middle. So that is our second stitch, making sure you catch all of those layers. Our third stitch is going to be in between these 2 pins now. So in through the top toward the bottom. I'm also catching that corner on that bottom layer there. Pulling that all the way through, and then coming up from the bottom toward the top between these 2 pins now, and this will catch those top corners there. That's our 4th stitch, and then our 5th stitch going just beside this pin, so between this pin and the corner, and then our 6th stitch coming up from the bottom toward the top, catching those last corners. So we've got 6 stitches all together on there, and then I can remove all of these pins now, and then we can pull on this thread to pull in that pinch. So I'm going to start pulling on the thread now, and you'll see the pinch start to form there in the middle like that. And then once you've got that in there nice and tight, keeping it pinched with my thumb and finger, I'm just going to go through all of those layers again just to make sure they hold in place. Let's give it another pull because I lost the tension on that one. So again, go through all of those layers to make sure that all holds in place. Holding in that nice tight pinch in that bottom there. I'm going to go through again for a second time. Going through all of those layers. And then this time I'm not going to pull it completely tight. I'm going to go through this loose loop, and that will just form a knot to hold that in place. So that is now the second half done, like that. So we've got 2 pieces now exactly the same, ready to join them together. And now I'm going to hot glue these 2 halves together, but I'm just waiting for my hot glue to heat up. So when my hot glue is heated up, I will, glue these 2 halves together, then come back. So I've got the 2 halves together now, and now I'm going to make some tails. So I've got my patterned ribbon here, the bunny one and the zigzag one, and I'm going to cut some tails, and I want the tails to be 4 inches for this bow. So 4 inches, so I'm just going to cut the ribbon to 4 inches, so that's a zigzag piece. And then I'm going to cut 2 of the bunny print pattern, again to 4 inches. I'll use this zigzag piece as a guide. So now we've got all 3 pieces cut, ready to cut these now into spikes. So folding these in half lengthways, we're going to cut this corner off. So from the open edge down to the folded edge, cutting it off diagonally, and then opening it up so that they're not touching. I can then heat seal both of those sides at the same time. And then when you open it up, you've got that spike. You need to do that on all 3 pieces, on all of the ends, so cutting off the corner to make those into spikes. So that's all 3 pieces now done. So what we're going to do next is find the centre. So folding each piece in half, I'm just going to use the heat from my finger this time, just to mark a little crease in there so we can see where the centre is. I'm going to do that on all 3 pieces. And then we can use these creases as a guide to line these all up to make the base or tail bow. So putting the 2 bunny print pieces together first, so I'm lining them up so they're just touching in the middle, and then I'm going to take this zigzag piece and lay that over the middle of them both, lining them up where the creases are, and I can also see by eye that the ends are in line. Now we're going to stitch across this middle, so where those creases are that we've made as a guide. So taking my needle and thread, we're going to start sewing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then our 10th and last stitch coming up from the bottom toward the top. Again, I'm still using those creases as a guide, so I know I've got my stitches nice and central. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so I've done 10 stitches across that middle. You could do more or less, it's up to you. You might get away with just doing, say, 8 if you wanted to, but yeah, I've just done 10. You don't see it anyway because it's going to be on the underside. So I'm pulling on that thread now to make that pinch form in the middle. I'm just going to wrap this thread around the centre a couple of times just to hold that nice and tightly in place. And then I'm going to go through on the underside just to seal it off so I can form a knot and then trim off the excess thread. So I'm just going through, catching a couple of layers of the ribbon, and then I've gone through that loop to form a knot. And then that should be sealed off enough for us to then cut off the thread without losing all the stitching. So that is our spiky tail base bow, as I call it, ready to attach now to the underside of our bow. I'm just pulling these out just to line them up. So this is what it looks like that. So we've got those different patterns on there. And then using my hot glue gun, I'm going to attach this now to the bottom of my bow. Making sure it's nice and straight. I'm going to then pop the glue across the middle of the bow and then lining that up on those spiky tails, making sure it's in line and central. Taking a lined hair clip now. I've already lined this hair clip with some matching ribbon. It's a 45mm double prong clip, and I'm just going to apply some glue to this and attach this on the underside of my bow. And we're not quite done yet, because not only have we got to wrap the centre, I'm also going to make some little mini bows to stick on the sides, just to give it some extra detail, and just finish that off. So taking the zigzag ribbon, I've cut a strip from it, a 1 centimetre wide, and this is just over 2 inches in length. And I've cut this from the 1 inch wide ribbon, so I've got to heat seal around all of the sides where I've cut it from the wider piece of ribbon. You can buy these in 1 centimetre wide, but because I didn't have it, like I said, I just cut it from my 1 inch wide ribbon. And I'm going to use this piece to wrap the centre of the bow. So I'm just going to open up the clip, and I'm going to pop this on the underside central to the hair bow, and then I'm going to start wrapping this around the centre of the bow, making sure it's still all in shape and in line before I stick down on the underside. So applying another little bit of hot glue to that last end, and again sticking it underneath that clip. So that is the centre now wrapped. So this is what it looks like. You could leave it like this, it looks gorgeous as it is, but we are going to add those extra little bows now to the sides, because not only will they look gorgeous, that also holds the bow in shape. I've decided to bring in some hot pink for this as well, so yeah, another colour added into the mix. These two are 1 centimetre wide, cut to 7 centimetres in length, and I've got 2 pieces. And then again I've got my 1 inch wide zigzag ribbon, and this is cut to 9 centimetres in length. I'm going to cut this in half, and that will make a bow for each side. So I'm doing this by eye, so I'm just cutting this directly in half down the middle. Again, if you've already got a 1 centimetre wide in a matching ribbon, you can use that, but because I wanted to use the zigzag to bring out the other zigzag patterns in the bow, that is what I'm using today. So I'm just cutting this in half and then heat sealing all around that raw edge where I've just cut it. Again, that is to get rid of any frays and prevent any existing frays. I'm just giving this a trim because that looks a little bit wonky at the bottom there, so I'm just levelling it off, and again heat sealing around all of the raw edge where I've just cut that ribbon. And now we're ready to make the mini bows out of these 4 pieces of ribbon, so 1 for each side. Again, I'm going to heat seal the ends of these pink pieces also to prevent any fraying. Taking the zigzag piece, I'm going to now fold this into a bow, so I'm just going to fold it in half first of all, and then I'm going to use that crease as a guide to bring in the 2 outer edges. So putting the glue on the 2 ends, I'm going to bring it into the centre, overlapping that crease by about 1/2 centimetre, and then bring the other side in, again overlapping that crease by about 1/2 centimetre. And then taking the plain hot pink piece, again folding it in half to find the centre, applying hot glue on both of the tab ends, and then bringing those in to slightly overlap that centre crease in the middle. And then we're going to layer this piece on top of the zigzag. So that will make like a double looped bow. So popping a little bit of glue in the middle of the pink and popping it on top of the slightly larger zigzag piece that we've just made. So that looks like a sort of double looped bow. And then we're going to do the same with the other 2 pieces. So we've got 2 pieces now exactly the same. And I've cut some more pieces. Again, these are the zigzag ribbon, 1 centimetre by 1 inch. And these are going to be to wrap around the centre. So heat sealing all around the raw edges, and then we're going to glue this around the middle of these mini bows to act like the centre strip. And then on the underside, we're going to stick the 2 ends down. Popping some hot glue on those 2 ends and then bringing them underneath, sticking them down. So that is 1 mini bow now complete. I'm sorry I'm not in line of the camera. I've not got very much room. I haven't set up my camera very well. And then I'm going to do the same with the second piece, so stick the second centre strip on there. So we've got our 2 little mini bows now ready to stick on the outer sides of our bow. First of all, we just need to fluff up our bow. Before we stick these on, we want to make sure that the loops are all nice and even, so that, you know, because they're obviously going to be holding them in place. So I like to just fluff up my loops. Fluff up is just a term that I like to use. I don't know if that's even a thing. That's just what I always say, fluff up the loops. So I'm just making sure they're sitting as I want them to sit and that they're nice and even on both sides. And then when we glue these on, that will hold them in place. So I'm going to pop my glue on either side and in the middle. So a little bit in the middle and on either side. Because that is all going to sit across those 2 loops and hold it all in place. Making sure it's central. And I can then push that down and push the loop sort of into that bow, into the glue. Making sure it's straight. You don't want it on there wonky. You want to make sure it's going straight across. And that will just hold those loops on the main bow in place. And like I said, it just adds some extra detail, and you can mix and match. So instead of using 2 patterns and 1 plain now, I've actually introduced another colour because I've brought in the hot pink as well. I could have done blue, but I thought that would just make it stand out a little bit if I added a little bit of hot pink as well. And yeah, I really like how this is looking so far. And there is the finished bow. And this is the lilac one that I did earlier. I did the spotty ribbon on this one, and I used a baby pink on the mini bows on the side. And yeah, this one has got the hot pink and the baby blue and the zigzag. Aren't they gorgeous? I do love these. They're both an Easter theme, but like I said, you can use any patterns and colours. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today. If you did, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you press the bell button, that will turn on notifications. I'll be back again soon. Bye!